Hey, this is video essay number 8 for me, Ian, here in Beijing. This one's about the fate of the USA billionaires. So the other day, I woke up here in Beijing about an hour after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. I was pottering about the house, getting ready to grab a coffee, and I glanced at my phone and I seen the alert about the shooting. Being a bit of a news junkie, I immediately started looking through the reports from varied media outlets and online platforms. Within a matter of hours, if less than that, the internet and the platforms had turned into a bit of a confusion, questions, allegations and blame culture. Conspiracy theories were everywhere, and some were outlandish and opportunistic in their claim. Now, a few days after the big incident has passed, and it hasn't improved much. It's still the same crazy, confusing mess online. Yes, sure, we know more about the shooter, but really do we? I, for one, think there is a lot of oddness about how it could happen. I'm not a big fan of conspiracy theories, but I am more into believing that often it is politics and the dirty deeds within that which drives much of the discourse in the world today. And when you ask yourself, from this incident, who benefits, then honestly, it could be either side. Could it be the Trump side that benefited as he became a hero in the moment, or is it the Biden side of the political campaign, because there is now another topic in the headlines other than his age and mental fitness for the job? It could also be as simple as the mainstream media actually claims, and that is a disgruntled young man, a lone gunman with an automatic rifle who wanted to be famous, just took it on himself to do the shooting. I don't know, but for me that sounds very familiar.
Lee Harvey Oswald, the prime suspect and lone gunman.
The suspect in the shooting reportedly armed with a .30 caliber rifle.
He seemed to be an egomaniac. He had few real friends of any sort.
What I do know that is that someone was killed and 2 other people were injured. Someone lost their life, and that is a sad thing, and it is metaphoric in the sense that the bystander or the normal common man pays the price of the rancid politicking that has gone on in the USA for a number of years now already. Some would argue that it is a country that is built on that mindset when you look back at the other political assassinations over the United States history. What is interesting is that now we are in the information age, we can at least grab at more points of information that maybe our ancestors could never have possibly have dreamed of. But grabbing all that stuff is confusing, especially when what has supposed to have happened, i.e. success in the attempt, didn't actually happen as planned. And so the fog of war, the clouds, the narrative, everything gets confusing. Trump did just dodge a bullet. Did we all just dodge a bullet? Do we even know really what's real anymore? In the book 1984, there is a quote: when Big Brother and the party say peace, they mean war. When they say love, they mean hate. And when they say freedom, they mean slavery. A lot of people think in the book Orwell introduced the word doublespeak, but he actually doesn't use that word in the book. He uses the words doublethink and newspeak, and I think just common culture has put the two of them together. And although I think doublespeak, which is an amalgamation of these 2 words, would have been fitting for this day and age, as we hear it now in everyday life, in everyday media communication, and that use of language adds to the confusion, especially when you hear that double speak being used constantly. So yeah, the whole idea of double speak in action. I was listening to a podcast the other day called The Enemy's List, and it is by a guy called Rick Wilson, and he is a former Republican strategist, but he is now an anyone but Trump political commentator, and he very much reflects the Democratic position in his content and stuff that he shares online. He opened up the podcast that I was listening to, thankful that Trump survived the bullet, and indicated how America had dodged a bullet because of what the aftermath would have been like if the bullet had connected. And he also called for calm, fair play. He did that, called for calm, on his podcast called The Enemy's List. You get the irony, the doublespeak. Now, in the podcast, they actually talked about how the fear mongering from the Republican side was driving the American divide, and all the Republicans have is division and hate, that they say and use this to cause the anger, and it's that which is causing the problem. He then went on to say that if we let this continue and Donald Trump gets into power, then we will lose our democracy, and Trump will turn into a fascist dictator, containing and prosecuting his political enemies, and the country will never be the same because democracy is gone for good. I mean, isn't that fear and division in itself? Hence why I say doublespeak. And it's on both sides. Trust me, Republicans and Democrats, both sides are painting this catastrophe waiting to happen. They're painting it together. There is no innocence here. There is only the gullible, and that's the people that swallow it, believe it, and then act on it.
We do not have any reports of fatalities yet, but we believe that the death toll may be in the hundreds of millions. Beaverton has only a population of about 8,000, Tom, so this would be quite devastating. Any word on how the survivors in the town are doing, Mitch? We're not sure what exactly is going on inside the town of Beaverton, Tom, but we're reporting that there's looting, raping, and yes, even acts of cannibalism. My God, you've actually seen people looting, raping, and eating each other. No, we haven't actually seen it, Tom. We're just reporting it.
So billionaires on one side and billionaires on the other. Trump is a billionaire, possibly. We don't actually know. But you need money to win the presidential race, to become the president of America. Or you could call it the CEO of America, Inc., the top job in American industry. It doesn't come cheap, and you get there, you achieve that position, you only do it with debts. Fact.
This guy wants to tell me we're living in a community. Don't make me laugh. I'm living in America. And in America, you're on your own. America's not a country. It's just a business.
Now, Trump has just picked his vice president, and it's a very interesting choice. He has very serious financial backing. I mean, serious as in money, and in the desire to grab even more power. J.D. Vance, Trump's pick for the VP, has the backing of the modern billionaires, the tech bros. I think this choice is a real threat, and as VP, you're always that one bullet connection away from being the top guy, if you get what I mean. The other side, the more established billionaires, the old money, they support and back Biden. These billionaires are long established, and in some cases, they're actually household names, and their involvement in the politics goes way back a long time. Old versus the new. If you look for it, you can see it. I used to always think it was billionaires lining up to fight other billionaires, but then I realised I don't think that is the case. I was recently introduced to this documentary on YouTube. It's called Everything is a Rich Man's Trick. And it is a very interesting documentary for a number of reasons. Some of it is way out there. Some of it does make you think. It did make me reconsider a question I had when I was a teenager, which was how did Germany and Japan recover so quickly from the devastating defeats during the war? I remember as a teenager trying to work out how Germany became another superpower after being destroyed from the First World War, 17 years or so between that. this documentary did throw up some interesting thoughts on this incredible recovery by Germany. And then the documentary actually continued through that into more recent history to position now some rather interesting takes on what we know or what we think we know about today. When I watch the documentary, it does make me want to read more and keep trying to understand this world, the world that we cohabit, and how it is connected. Like Mulder and Scully in the X-Files, I'm sure the truth is out there somewhere, but I now believe there is so many versions of it. One thing I did take from the documentary was that billionaires don't necessarily fight. They play both sides, double-siding, hedging their bets. They negotiate. They have skin in the game of politics, the game of power. And maybe that's what the game is, way up there in the heady heights of the elite and the wealthy. A world that we, the little people, me down here, could never comprehend. A game of Monopoly where the streets on the board are actually countries, companies, and the waterworks and electric company are larger than and more complex than just one simple square on the board. And the money they use in the game that the wealthy play has a whole lot of extra zeros at the end. And as little people, me, hence why I'm down here, just can't get our head around that. So I'm left with one huge lingering question as I search to make sense of it all. Do we really live in a democracy? That's the question that I have in my mind these days. Now, I live in China. I understand, before you leave all the comments in the box below, I get it. China isn't a democracy. I understand that. It is socialism with Chinese characteristics. And it's an astounding success, and that success has relied on benevolent leadership, and long may that continue, because it has eradicated absolute poverty in China and then went beyond that. I'm actually talking more about the West, the democracy there, and at the moment, democracy in the U.S.A. The U.S.A., I'm beginning to think more and more, is not really a democracy. Not quite sure what it is. Sure, you can say in the box below. Incidentally, please subscribe in the box below. I'm being told that people are being unsubscribed. I wonder why. But what I do know is that the difference between both China and the USA is the benevolence of the leadership. And because of that, or the lack of that, I can see the fabrics of society in America beginning to fray. And in that fraying, stoked by the political classes that are driving the division, within that, well, what can I say? I can actually see how a young, angry guy who has a stressful future ahead of him could actually get into his head to carefully plan and execute a situation where he can crawl on a roof with a powerful automatic rifle and be given the space and time in the confusion to shoot at the most powerful man in the world. I can believe that, no? I do think things will get worse before they change for the better, and that worse could very well affect us all in some way. And in a scenario straight from 1984, or like, what can I say, Brexit in the UK, the good old United States of America, the population, the people, could very well be kicked into voting for that very outcome, something that works against them, voting for something that the average person doesn't actually want, like conflict, war, global war. Turkeys and Christmas always comes to my mind when I say that. Now, voting, that is an interesting concept. Maybe we should start to evolve our electoral processes. In this information age is a time now for a different type of democracy based on a different process, one that harnesses more of our technology. Given that we have now in place systems and customs that the creators of that very system, of that democracy, they could not have possibly have understood or mitigated for what we've got now at our disposal. It is a very interesting thought, that idea of having a democracy in a different way, voting in a different process. And I think, if I'm honest, that is what the billionaires are negotiating over. Not sure. Peace out.